You that the views expressed in today's show do not reflect the views of KZLX, KNWT, or Northwest Missouri State University. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of Weekend Sports Kickoff. I am not your usual host, Trevor Mader, but I am Andy Johnson, the producer of Nerd Central. On this episode of Weekend Sports Kickoff, we have special guests Justin Quick of the Northwest Missourian, Anthony Madrigal, and Caleb Winslow, producer of this show that you're watching currently. First, let's talk about Northwest football and Northwest sports, actually. So tell us about the Pitt State game and Nebraska Kearney.
It's definitely going to be a big game they got, this weekend. Pitt State, they're ranked number 8th right now in the country, and Northwest is 16, and they're top 2 in the conference right now. So Pitt State sitting at 5-0, and Northwest coming in at 4-1. So whoever kind of takes a hold of this game is really going to have a really good stronghold on the conference and be able to, have their path to the conference title, and then possibly a playoff run to the championship game.
So basically, whoever kind of wins out will probably become the crown champion, whatever, of the MIAA.
Yeah, if Northwest wins this game and then wins out, they'll have the win over Pitt, the win over Fort Hays, which will give them 2 losses, so that'll take them out of it. And then if it comes down to both them and Pitt, having the same record at the end of the season, then Northwest will get it because of the head-to-head matchup. So it's definitely a huge game. It's going to be a loud game there at the Jungle, Pitt State. Yeah. And, they always show up whenever Northwest is in town. Everybody seems to. But Coach Wright has been kind of blaring the good old Jumbotron there at the stadium this week during practice. So they're definitely getting ready prepared for it.
Busting those booms.
Oh, yeah.
Those bass booms. So if you had – I know you've been all week, you've been looking at the matchups. Mm-hmm. I know we're Northwest. I know we're a little biased, but if you had to choose, how do you think? How do you see the game turning out?
I don't know if I'm ready to pick a team yet, even though I want to. I obviously want Northwest to win.
Obviously,
but I think it really is too close to either pick one side. It's going to come down to whoever. It's going to come down to whoever makes the least mistakes. Whoever turns the ball over the least. Last year, Northwest turned the ball over 4 times, and that really killed them.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a 20-10 game, so you take away those 4 turnovers, who knows what kind of ball game that is.
We have a ball game.
Yeah, how that season turns out. So if they're able to control the ball, control a little bit of that Pitt State run game that's averaging over 200 yards a game on the ground, then I think they have a really good shot of going into Pitt and pulling the upset. As weird as it is to say that. Yeah.
Weird to say for Northwest. So we've talked about Pitt State. Let's move past Pitt State. Let's talk about Nebraska Kearney. Mm-hmm. Now, it's obviously Nebraska Kearney. We've always destroyed them all the time, but this game is a little bit more special because it's homecoming. Mm-hmm. Tell us. Let's start with just the festivities of homecoming. Like, what are we gonna have for homecoming?
Well, to start, we're gonna have Mel Churchma. He's gonna be the grand marshal of this year's homecoming. Yeah. So that'll have an emotional feel already to start the day off. And the emotions are just going to be all throughout the day. I mean, you've got all the festivities, the parade, all the big activities that are going on playing with, the university, and all kind of accumulates with that, football game. You get Kearney coming into town, and you've got, the crowning of the homecoming court, all of that. So it's going to be kind of a longer festivity-filled day, kind of like it was with, Military Day. Mm-hmm. We've had a couple of these to prepare for it. But I think it is going to be a little bit different feel because it's a Northwest-specific day instead of having it be a military day or.
This is us.
This is for Northwest. Yes. So I think they're definitely going to come out and want to prove something again on their home turf. They love playing in front of the crowd. I'm sure the crowd is going to be packed with it being homecoming.
Yes.
So.
Oh yes.
Even if
the weather's bad. We even saw the turnout from the Emporia State. Yeah. They started flowing in, and it started having a crowd. So that's what I'm expecting.
As soon as they opened that back up after the delay, people started flowing back in, and there was a crowd there for that game too.
And the field house is being dedicated that weekend as well. So
yes, it is.
It's gonna be on Friday. Yep. And speaking of the parade, we know that KNWT is covering, we're broadcasting it all on Facebook. So if anybody's out there that wants to to watch it, you watch our good work, you can check it out there. But let's talk about. I know you haven't done much research about Kearney because we're focused on Pitt.
Yeah.
But how do you I know they have you said that they have the number one rusher of MIAA, or is it just
they have the leading rusher in the conference right now, Darius Webb. So they also, a lot like Pitt, they have a ground attack, and it is a little bit different than Pitt, as in Pitt runs a lot of the triple option, a lot of the physical ground attack, and Kearney is also a physical team, as we saw last year when we went to Kearney and played them, and it was a real close game. But it's going to be a little less of the triple option. They're going to have a little bit more balance with the passing and running. So it's definitely going to be a nice little flip to go from Pitt State, who's going to be a heavy ground team, to have also another ground emphasis team and see if they can, contain Webb a little bit. He's averaging, I think, close to or just right around 100 yards a game.
And do you think I've seen our defense in action? We're pretty stacked, except for the Oklahoma game. That was I'm gonna say it's a fluke. I think we're gonna be pretty good. But do you see our defense stopping the running back, starting the passing? Do you see us kind of figuring them out?
I think we started a trend in the right direction with the Emporia game. They switched some things up. They moved Anthony Lane to the safety position. Got 2 6'1" corners now, so they've got a nice size physical corners, and then they've got hitters in the back with Jack Richards and Anthony Lane. So they've got a nice solid secondary. Be interested to see what they go. If they change it up again, because they have changed it up every week so far. But they've also got senior linebacker Ben Altoff back from his injury. The first game of the year, actually, they finally got him back against UCO, and then the full game against Emporia. So it'll be nice to have him back, get that linebacker core solidified with him and Nick Hess, and then Jackson Barnes also getting he got his first start against Emporia. So it'll be nice to have that kind of solidified, and the front seven is going to have a huge role in these, the Pitt State and the Kearney game.
Most definitely.
Whether it be stopping the run or filling the gaps in the triple option.
And you can't forget about Austin Eskew.
Oh yeah.
He's up in the front. If anybody goes to the game, look out for number 8, because he's the guy that you got to be checking out. So we've talked a lot about football. I honestly think we can get past Pitt. If we play smart, we can get past Pitt. Kearney, I've seen them in the past. They're not the best. I see us winning out, but that's just me. We're not doing picks yet. We're good. But let's turn our attention to more just football, because shocking, we're not just football. We also have a pretty good volleyball team.
Yeah,
we're pretty ranked. Yeah,
pretty well
we're ranked. But and even the MIAAs, just as a whole, we're doing pretty good as a conference. And I know that unfortunately on Friday they lost, but it was a 5-set thriller, and it was against
Central Oklahoma,
which is also a really good team. So, I mean, where do you see the volleyball team going?
I think they're heading in the right direction. The past few years, they've started strong and then kind of trailed off a little bit when they got into the conference play. And now we're seeing them get into the conference play and be competitive with the conference teams like UCM. They already pulled off a win against UCM this year.
That was a good one.
And then the 2 5-set losses they have are to Kearney and Central Oklahoma, who you mentioned are Kearney's number 4 and Central Oklahoma is 19 at the moment. So, I mean, they're not losing to bad teams. They're being competitive 5-set matches. In that Nebraska-Kearney game, all the matches were decided by 4 points or less. And then the Central Oklahoma one, they come back from a 0-2 match or set deficit to take it to 5. So we're seeing a team that's resilient. They're finding a way to win games, and then when they get in those tough times, they lose a set here or set there, and that kind of determines the match. But I think they're being competitive in the conference. I think that's really what they want to do this year.
Yeah, I haven't been to a game, but I mean, what I've heard is that they're doing really good, and I'm super excited for where they go next. I know we covered a game last year, and I mean they were rocking the house, and all the fans came out. Take it or leave it, Northwest fans, regardless of what sport it is, even if we're down in the dumps, like a certain a ball in a grass field, and use your foot for it, they still come out. Bearcat fans, they're the best. I know all colleges say that, but it's different here.
Yeah,
I'll say that much.
You mentioned the atmosphere of the volleyball games. It rivals that of the atmosphere of the football games.
Oh yes.
You go to you can go to the football game on Saturday, then you head to a volleyball game, and it just carries that emotion, that excitement from the football game into the volleyball game, and that's kind of what happened with Emporia. They played Emporia, they had to push it back a little bit, so all the fans who were there went, hey, let's go over to the volleyball game. They're playing Kearney, and I wasn't there, but we did have a couple reporters there, and they said that atmosphere was just insane.
I would say it rivals the basketball, not like the championship, like everybody's packed and it's like you can't hear out of either ear, but it's like it's packed in there. Like, oh man, it's just we've got to go, but I just. Very briefly, I want to talk about our tennis star. Like, I really want to talk about is it Oliva or Olivia?
Franco Olivia.
Olivia from Argentina is what I've learned. Yep. And tell him just a little bit about him before we go.
They had the ITA regionals. I think it was either this past weekend or a weekend ago, and he came out on top in the single A tournament. He won the regional, which hasn't been done for Northwest since 2014, and so it's been a while. And now him and another qualifier get to go down to the ITA Cup in Georgia. So they're going to be down there, this weekend. And it's been a while. Last year we kind of saw a little drop off with the tennis team. We've been so used to them winning the conference every single year. And last year they didn't win the conference. And so it was kind of something that, Coach Rosewell really wanted to get back and build a few have a few guys, a few girls who are really leading the team. And they've kind of found that with a lot of their young players.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this. We're going to take a short break. Justin will be back. He will be here for college football and NFL picks. Yep. But next, we have our picks for the postseason for the MLB. You're watching Weekend Sports Kickoff right here on KNWT. We'll be right back.
You that the views expressed in today's show do not reflect the views of KZLX, KNWT, or Northwest Missouri State University. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Weekend Sports Kickoff. I am your host for this week, Andy Johnson, and as you can see, I am now joined by Anthony and Caleb, and we are going to talk about the Major League Baseball's postseason. Now we're going to dive deep. We're going to go all the way into the World Series. But for the LDS, we're going to talk about just who we think was going to win. So we're going to start with the big rivalry in the MLB, Yankees, Red Sox. Who you got? Caleb, go first.
Well, for this series, it is one of the most historic series in all of baseball history. This is the first time since 2004 that this series has taken place in the postseason. For this one, I have the Red Sox taking it just because I think they're the better built team, at least at the moment, pitching-wise. The Yankees do have some hard hitters, though.
And if you can remember back in 2004, that was the year that the Yankees came back from a 3-0, 3-1 deficit, something like that. Wasn't that year? Anyway.
I'm not sure on that one.
Okay, totally fine. Anthony, go.
I got the Yankees coming in. I'm not a huge baseball guy, but the Yankees they're, like Caleb said, they're historically just a good team. And when you have bats like Gregorius and Judge coming in, you can't. You can have good pitching, but at some time those bats are going to come in, and they're going to start getting hits, and that's going to change a game.
I was actually mistaken. It was Boston that came down from. It was 3-1. The Yankees were up 3-1, and Boston came back.
All right.
Probably. Don't quote me on that. But I'm with Anthony on this one. I think the Yankees. You got Stanton. You got Judge. You got those heavy hitters. Like, at some point, those bats are going to come alive, like they did in the wild card game. Like, Judge, bam, right off the bat. Pun. Anyway, but yeah, it was just off the bat, done. The game was basically over. But let's move on to the other ALDS game, the Astros and Indians. Who you got, Caleb?
Well, for this one, being a Kansas City Royals fan, I can never pick the Indians. So I'm picking the Houston Astros to win this one just because, last year they proved it when they went to the World Series. They have one of the most complete teams in all of baseball right now. They have the hitters. They have the pitching staff with Justin Verlander.
Oh, Justin Verlander, 2011 Justin Verlander. That's
he
dangerous.
was a phenomenal pitcher.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I have the Astros winning this one just because how well completely built they are. The Indians have some heavy hitters, but it all depends upon whether or not they can get hits off that strong Astros team.
Anthony?
I'm also taking the Astros in this one. I believe I have them in, 5, 4? And
This is the LDS, so we're just picking teams.
my bad.
You're good.
But,
No worries. You're good.
I mean, when you look at the pitching from Houston, it's just Verlander and Cole finished with 257 strikeouts this year.
Oh, yeah.
It led the league, and it's only the second time in history that that's happened as a duo of pitchers. And I mean, going up against that, that's going to give problems to anybody. And it doesn't matter how big your bats are; you're going to get hits. But if no one's there to bring runs in, it's going to be an issue coming down, especially late in close games.
Most definitely. I am in agreement with both of you. I think the Astros, they've proved it last year that they can win in the playoffs, obviously because they won the World Series. But that pitching, it's going to be a fun matchup. For us, it's going to be a fun matchup with the Yankees. And the Red Sox, they have some good bats too.
Oh, yeah.
But let's move into the National League. The first game we've got Brewers, Rockies. Caleb, go.
Well, I'm going to be choosing the Milwaukee Brewers, or the Kansas City Royals of the North, as they've been called over the past few weeks.
That's what happens when you got Moose and all those
when you
Royals.
got Moose and Kane, it's really not hard to root for those guys. It's like grew up watching them go to the 14 World Series and win the 2015 World Series. It's like there's not much you can hate about those guys. It's like I'm going to cheer for them because it's like they've proven they're well built for the postseason, especially with Moose doing what he does best in the postseason, knowing how to hit.
Anthony?
I'm going to go with the underdog Rockies on this one. It's a bold choice because they barely made it in, and I mean they came out of the wild card game, and there's not a great upside to them, but I think if they can get the momentum right, they can definitely come out of the series.
That's not a bad pick because they had to beat the Cubs to make it to this point
in Wrigley.
Exactly, in Wrigley, and that's a tough place to place to beat. I mean, Milwaukee and Colorado did beat them there, but that was 2 days in a row. This is going to pain me because I'm a Cardinals fan, but I'm going with the Brew Crew just because, it's NL Central pride. Like I gotta have them represent them. They're the only team left. I gotta represent them. So let's move to the other one, East versus West. We've got Atlanta, and we've got LA. Go.
Well, for this one, I have to go with the Dodgers just because Clayton Kershaw always knows how to pitch just a phenomenal game in the postseason. He just knows he has that batting. He knows how to exactly get up against the batters during that time. And there's just something about him in the postseason that just somehow he knows how to turn it on right at the right time to be able to win games.
Most definitely. Anthony?
I'm also going with the Dodgers. It's a little bit of a biased pick, one of my favorite teams.
It's okay to be biased. It's totally fine to be biased. I'm cool with that.
But I agree with Caleb. Kershaw is just he's looking for that ring to add to his probably what is a Hall of Fame career.
Oh yes,
and getting the ring would cement his legacy in the.
Well, I think he's already in the Hall of Fame, but that ring is just like the nail in the coffin. He's ready to go. I am with you guys. Kershaw, that's all I got to say, Kershaw. So we have set the LCS. Let's pick them. Now this time we're actually going to pick games. They're best of 7. So Caleb, we're going to start with you in the AL. You had the Astros and the Red Sox. Who you got winning that?
Well, for this, I have the Astros taking it in 6, just because the Astros are one of the most complete teams in all of baseball. Like I said earlier, they got the hitting, they have the batting. They just know how to win in October.
And you do have Boston winning a couple. I mean, Fenway, tough to play.
Oh, yeah. Fenway.
That giant, that green giant, oof. Okay.
The green monster, Andy.
Green monster, my bad. Green giant is a food. Anyway, Anthony, you have Astros and Yankees just like me. Pick your representative of the AL into the World Series.
I believe I have the Astros in 4 in this.
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
yes.
I got it correct this time. I think...
So you think a clean sweep?
As big as the bats that the Yankees have, I think the pitching's too good coming from the Astros.
That's
and
fair.
I think,
That's fair.
especially with the fact that the Astros can shut it down like they can from a pitching standpoint with the big bats that they do have, it's going to overwhelm the Yankees. And I think it'll overwhelm a lot of teams like we saw with them winning 103 games this year. I think it's just going to be too much.
I agree with you on who advances. I actually believe that the Yankees, and to reference the NBA Finals, and not the NBA Finals, but the NBA playoffs, the 1 seed in the West, the Houston Rockets and the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Timberwolves still got a win. So I think I don't know when it will be, probably in Yankee Stadium. I think the Yankees will pull one out, but then it'll just be all Houston. So let's move into the National League. Caleb, you and I have the Brewers and the Dodgers.
Yes.
Let's start with that.
Well, for this one, I'm thinking Brewers are going to take it, but it's going to be a long, hard-fought battle. They're going to have to win. They're going to have to win in 7 games just because Clayton Kershaw knows how to survive in the postseason. He's got that. He's got that certain type of magic in that postseason to know how to shut down batters. But the Brewers, they got a little bit of royal magic in them. They always knew how to hit off the hardest hitting pitchers to hit in the league.
So we'll get to mine. Anthony, you have the Rockies instead of the Brewers. Who you got?
I have the Dodgers in 5, I believe, and I'm gonna give the Rockies one upset win here. With exception of I think they might pull one out when Kershaw's not pitching. I think they might catch a slip.
Well, that's every 5 games, but okay.
Yeah.
Unless they do a Madison Bumgarner with him, and then
True.
Come in and do relief pitching.
But I think the Rockies will get one, and then the rest of the way, it's just the Dodgers are going to dominate what was pretty much a Cinderella team coming into the playoffs.
Very true. So I have the Brewers and the Dodgers meeting. I think this is where my allegiance to the Central ends. I believe the LA Dodgers are going to pull this out. I have them in 6 because I think that they find a way to win in Milwaukee. Like I don't think this goes back to LA. Like they might win in Milwaukee Game 6 and then we're done. All right. We've said it. World Series. We have Astros Dodgers for both of us. We've got Astros and Brewers for you. Pick your winner.
Well, for this, I'm going with the Brewers again, but it's going to take all 7 games because, like I've said several times, the Astros are just a hard team to beat. Just a hard team to beat, especially in H-Town.
Very true. And that hill.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that hill. I used to, Cardinals fan, I know that hill. Anthony.
I'm going Dodgers in 7 with this one. It's definitely a biased pick. I watched the Dodgers last year. Broke my heart to see him lose that game. But I think Kershaw definitely has a big series, and I'm looking for Puig to at least have a couple real clutch hits to make just statement plays in the series and bring around a couple wins that they might not really deserve to say, but are more just luck hits.
I am with you on this one. I think the Dodgers will pull this out. It's gonna be. I think every game is gonna be a close game. It's gonna be like a run or 2. Like that's literally gonna be the deciding factor. But when you have Kershaw, I know he doesn't play every single day, but obviously you have Clayton Kershaw in the background. Like you just know that. But so we have it, Brewers. So the NL is gonna win. So that's what we're predicting.
Yep.
The NL is gonna win. We got the Brewers and we've got the Dodgers. But so that's all we've got for the Major League Baseball. When we come back, we are going to decide the college football and the NFL. You're watching KNWT Weekend Sports Kickoff.
You that the views expressed in today's show do not reflect the views of KZLX, KNWT, or Northwest Missouri State University. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Weekend Sports Kickoff. I am your host this week, Andy Johnson, and as you can see, all of us are here for this part of it. So we're going to start with the picks for the college football. So let's start in the Mountain West. Let's go with San Diego State versus Boise State. I almost messed up on my favorite team. Caleb, go ahead and pick who you got. And keep in mind, I am a Boise State fan. So,
well, I'm not just picking Boise State because Andy's a Boise State fan, but I am picking Boise State to win this. I think it's going to be a very interesting and fun game to watch whenever it comes up to being. It's going to be a really close game for what I'm going to take.
Anthony?
I'm going with Boise State. I think on their home field, the Smurf turf.
Smurf
I think is what it's
turf,
called.
yeah.
It's too much, Graphics don't show up on it half the time. It's just really an interesting thing to even watch on television.
Yep, but it's fun.
Yeah, I'm going Boise State.
Justin, what do you got?
I'm also going with Boise State as well. I also agree the Smurf turf is going to play a huge, factor in that. They're probably going to wear all blue. They might even lay down in the end zone on one of the kickoffs like they sometimes try to do. But I think Boise State is just a team where if they're playing at home, they're going to get the win. They're taught well, they practice well, and they just play well at home.
Yeah, I obviously I'm in agreement with all of you. Boise State's my team. I think the fans are actually going to be dressing in all orange. I think it's orange out this week.
Yeah.
But the team is obviously going to be in blue because Smurf turf. I don't know if they're going to lay into the end zone because they may lay in the lettering because their end zone is orange. Yeah, but their letters are blue, so it works. But it's all right. But yeah, I see this as a blowout. Like Boise is just, and then this is not just because I'm a Boise State fan, but I think that they're just too good. Like they had that weakness against Oklahoma State that was in Stillwater, so it was kind of a little bit there. But I mean they're pretty good. But speaking of Oklahoma State in the Big 12, we've got a big rivalry coming up this week. We've got the Red River rivalry. It's a lot of R's, and it's really hard to say. We've got Texas versus Oklahoma. Now this game, there's no home team. It's a neutral site. It's the Cotton Bowl. Caleb, let us start us off. What do you got?
I got Oklahoma taking this one just because it's Oklahoma and they always show up. They just always know how to win some way, somehow. They always just know how to win.
Anthony?
I'm picking Oklahoma. Coming into the season, I wasn't real sold on Kyler Murray. Everyone was like, oh, he's the next Johnny Manziel. He's got all this crazy talent. And then I watched the first game, and I was like, this kid's for real. And I definitely think, they struggled in the past couple of weeks a little bit, but I think they're definitely – Texas has a good defense and a good team, but I think because the game comes with so much, I think he's going to step up, and they're really going to get the offense rolling against Texas.
True. Justin, I know you're a Texas fan.
I am, and this is going to be a little biased. I mean, I think it's going to be a really good game. It's a rivalry game, so anything obviously can happen. I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, Oklahoma came in as like a 30-point favorite and then got blown out by about 20. So anything can happen in this game. I'm going to go with Texas. They've got their offensive coordinator coming back after an illness. They've got a freshman starting safety who's already got 3 picks on the year, and then they also get another freshman starting safety coming back off of a concussion, and he plays kind of their nickel corner kind of position, and he's a big hitter. So I think Texas has the skills and the athleticism to hang with Oklahoma, and if they keep this close, I think Texas has a very good shot of pulling this off.
I am with Justin on this one. I watched the USC game. That's what really got me to be like, yeah, Texas is for real this year. Sometimes they're not really in it. Yeah. Some years.
They're hit or miss some years.
But I think this year they've really hit their stride, and I think they'll pull this out. It'll be like we all said, it's going to be a close game. Like this is not like a blowout game, which is what our next game is going to be, but yeah, this game is going to be really close. It's a neutral site, and it's going to be a fun game. I really see this going to be a fun game. So speaking of that beatdown that's going to happen, we've got Kansas visiting West Virginia. Now, I'm pretty sure we have all the same picks, but I just want to make sure. Caleb?
I picked West Virginia. I mean, it's Kansas. It's Kansas football. That's easy said and done. That's the answer.
Yeah, exactly. Anthony?
I'm going West Virginia, too. I mean, at this point, you don't want to come out and bash the football team, but at times you're surprised that they're still lining up and funding the athletic team.
Yep.
But I mean, yeah, they had their feel-good moment against Rutgers. Get that out of the way. It's time to get back to what Kansas does best, and sadly, that's lose football games.
Yep. Justin?
Also going with West Virginia. It's at West Virginia. Will Grier is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's right there with Kyler Murray, probably at the top of that. Him, Kyler Murray, and Tua from Alabama right there at the top of that Heisman list. And I think it's just going to be obviously going to be way too much for Kansas to handle. Like you said, they did have that moment against Rutgers, but let's all remember Rutgers is also not a very good team as well.
Yeah.
So.
We're all in agreement. I knew we were going to be in agreement. I'm with West Virginia. I mean, West Virginia's ranked. Kansas isn't. It's in West Virginia. Kansas is Kansas. Like, that's basically all you can say about it. Yes, they have 2 wins on the season. Is that right? About 2 wins?
Yeah, they're 2-3.
Yeah, they're 2 wins against teams that aren't really that great.
No.
So, West Virginia, it's the Big 12. I mean, it's going to be tough. So let's move on to the next game, which is a very special one. Since a couple weeks ago, we had our military day for Northwest. Two of our military branches are actually going to be playing this weekend. We've got Navy and Air Force. So, I mean, whoever wins this game, it's a win for all of us because they're going on to protect us. Like, that's what they're going to do after college. Like, they're coming to protect us. So, Caleb, I know it's going to be tough because these are our our armed forces. Who you got?
Well, for this one, I think I'm the only one going with the Air Force, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
That's because the Air Force does pass a lot unlike a lot of the other teams, like a lot of the other military teams that play football. They pass a lot. They're one of the only teams that actually goes out and passes every game.
Anthony?
I'm gonna go with Navy, and I think even though Air Force is gonna come out and throw the ball, I think the fact that Navy's out here running a triple option, they're gonna have so much time to control the game and the tempo with just keeping the ball on the ground and not worrying about airing the ball out. It's just gonna be a struggle for if they can get them off the field.
Justin?
I'm also going to side with Navy on this one. Like Anthony said, they run the triple option, which if you don't come into that game prepared as Air Force to take every single player out of that triple option, they're going to hit you, whether it's up the middle with the fullback, with the quarterback, who's obviously a running threat, or if he pitches it out to the third guy, the running back, who's probably the biggest running threat out of all three. So if you don't take care of every in and out of that offense, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, I'm also going with Navy. For me, it's all about clock management, and when you run the ball, you control the clock. Like we said, like you said in our pre-production, there was one team that held the ball for 45 minutes of a game. It's just there's a lot of time that that they're using. So, but again, it's the armed forces. Like, they're here to protect us. They're not here to play football, but they're doing football on the side. So we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going into the FCS this time. And we've got a big rivalry coming up this week. 2 top-tier teams in their own conference as well. We've got the North Dakota State Bison. Yes, it's Bison, not Bison. And the UNI Panthers. Caleb, what would you start us off?
I'm going to go with UNI. I knew a guy I actually know somebody who went there, so it's like I'm a fan of them just because he went there and he played there. They're a really good team. I think they're going to be able to pull out the win this week.
Yep.
I'm going North Dakota State simply because there's just the amount of tradition that comes out of there.
Yep.
I mean, they've not only there's 2 big NFL stars from both of these teams who are going to be playing on Sunday.
Very true.
But I just think, this when you think FCS football to someone who just thinks college football, the immediate is North Dakota State.
Yep.
And I think they're going to come out and continue tradition of winning.
I mean, you can't. 5 straight FCS
you can't argue
championships.
it.
You can't really argue with that. Justin?
I'm also going to go with North Dakota State. They got a big win early in the season against Iowa, a notable FBS school. And I think they're kind of on that path to where they're getting back to what they know best. They're getting back to running the ball, taking the big shots down the field like they did when Carson Wentz was there. And I think that is going to be just a little bit too much for UNI. I think it is going to be a close game just because it is, up there in Iowa instead of at the Fargo Dome. But I think North Dakota State will be able to keep their composure and come out with a win.
So if I picked North Dakota State, my dad would probably not like me so much anymore. And he actually bought me a Kurt Warner jersey. I'm going to be wearing it that day. So I'm picking UNI. I like what they're doing. Yes, North Dakota State has that tradition. I understand that. It's tough to pick against them, but UNI at home, this whole thing, it's just, they had a couple losses in the season, but those were for FBS teams. I believe they actually lost to Iowa, so I guess North Dakota State does have that, up against them. But, I see UNI winning this one. So, all great picks, all great. Let's move on to the big boys. Let's move to Sunday, and Monday. We got a Monday game. Let's start with my team, the Minnesota Vikings. They're traveling to Philadelphia to face the Eagles. Who you got?
Well, I've got Minnesota in this game just because they're gonna have to. This is a big game for them. That if they don't win this, they're basically done with their chances for the for playoff chances. Whoever wins this, even though the Eagles are in the NFC East and anybody can win that division at any point in time, but if the Vikings
He's not wrong.
if the Vikings don't win this, they're really packing it up and going home because the NFC North is just so dominant this year.
I'm going with the Eagles. I mean, the Vikings defense is a little suspect, and at times the offense has really hit a standstill. I mean, you lose to the Bills, it's and within the fashion that they did it too.
Yes,
not just that they lost to the Bills, but the amount of points that they gave up
at home and that bad.
Yeah, it comes out and it says there's something wrong here, and especially with, I mean, the Eagles. I don't think they're on caliber with the team they were last year. I don't think they're even near it. But maybe one or two Philly specials, and this thing it could turn bad. It could get real ugly.
Justin, who you got?
I'm also going with the Eagles. I think this is kind of going to be the game where we see Carson Wentz get his stride back, and we're going to see, he came back week 3. I think he's going to finally pick it up and finally get back to a game shape. It takes, a game or two to get back into game shape. And from what I've seen from Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, I'm just not sure I trust him yet to go into Philly and conquer that atmosphere. I know he has the experience playing in Philadelphia, being with the Redskins and everything, but I don't see him leading that Vikings team over Carson Wentz and the Eagles.
I have to disagree with you on that. I actually to everything that you said, I agree with everything you said, except for he has shown that he is worth the $84 million that we paid for him in that Green Bay game. Yes, it was a tie. Stupid that they have ties, but it's a tie. But after he threw that pick with like 2 minutes to go in the game, he didn't let it faze him. He went back. He went down the field. We tied the game again, tied. But that showed that he was worth that money. Like, yes, the Bills game, that was a fluke. I'm not defending that one. But then they showed back up on a short week, heading across the country to face the Rams, which they have still lost, but they made it a fair fight. But so I think, again, my dad and I we're Vikings fans. If I pick the Eagles, he'd probably kill me. So I'm gonna go with the Vikings, not just because of the threat of my life, but I think the Vikings will pull this one out. So going from my team to Caleb's team, we're going to talk about the Steelers as they play host. They play host to the Falcons.
We were hosting at
Playing host to the Falcons. I'm going to take a wild guess here. Steelers?
You would be correct with that, Andy. Yeah, the Steelers, we're looking for our first home win of the year. It's been really rough going in so far. Or 1-2-1. We'd really like to be able to win a home game, especially considering Heinz Field has always been a dominant place to play. It's like that's our turf. But so far this year, we just haven't been able to get our rhythm going. The defense has just kind of been all over the place. They haven't been able to get the ball to Antonio Brown. Run game's been a little iffy. James Conner's been doing great, but without Le'Veon Bell, there's some issues.
Anthony, who you got?
I'm going with the Falcons. I mean, most of just about everything coming off what Caleb said, there's definitely something wrong that has not. The Steelers, they're having issues, and it's not. Antonio Brown says there's nothing going wrong in the locker room, but at a certain point, when you lose games in the fashion that they have been, there's got to be some sort of issue somewhere, and I think the Falcons, if they're gonna eventually, the dam for Julio Jones is gonna break. He's gonna start catching touchdowns. He hasn't been lately, but once it's like Odell said, once it rains, it pours. And I mean, as a Giants fan, I'm waiting for that to happen. Might not ever, but I think for Julio, it's gonna happen. And with him and Ridley, they could turn into one of the most dangerous duos for wide receiving in the league, I think.
True. Justin, who you got?
I'm also going with the Falcons. I'm with Anthony on this one. Matt Ryan's got 8 touchdown passes in the last 2 games. They haven't been able to find a way to win. I think this is the week they finally get that win. I think Julio does get a touchdown this week. And I think Ridley has kind of come out of nowhere. I know he was drafted, a guy from Alabama, also like Julio, and he's already got over 500 yards this season in just 4 games. So he's getting the yards. I think this is the week they finally, like Anthony said, he finally gets through that and gets a touchdown, and I think the Falcons come out on top.
I am with both of you on this one. Sorry, Caleb.
It's okay, Andy.
It's the fact that in week 1, yes, it's a different team, but you tied the Browns. You can't really come back from that. I understand the Browns are a different team this year.
It was also a massive thunderstorm that was just kind of flooding all over the place down there.
He's making excuses now. But I see Matty Ice, he's going to go back to his MVP form. He's got to find that way. Julio Jones, I don't think he's going to get 1 touchdown. I think he's going to get 2. They're going to open up the passing game. It's going to be, I don't think it's going to be a slaughter, but it's going to be a lopsided game. Sorry, but it's just how
it's all right, Andy.
It's how the dice roll. So we've got a home team coming. We got a little Kansas City team that's they're doing pretty good, aren't they? They got a pretty good quarterback, don't they?
He's all right.
Yeah, no picks, and he has more completions with his opposite hand than he has interceptions with his actual hand. But they're playing at home, and they're playing the Jags. I think this is the game of the week. Either that, because if Minnesota and Philly was a better situation than it is now, we would have a tough debate there. But I think as the standings stand now, I think this is the game of the week. Who you got? Jags, Chiefs. Who you got?
Well, I got to go with the Jaguars for this one, just because they have one of the best, if not the best, defense in the entire NFL right now. I mean, they may have Blake Bortles over at QB, but they have one of the greatest. Yeah, Blake Bortles. At that statement.
Just laugh at Blake Bortles. That works.
Yeah. But they have one of the most dominant defenses, and that's something Pat Mahomes has not come up against. If anything, from Denver last week, watching, that was a challenge for him to be able to get touchdowns against. It's but the Denver defense is nowhere near compared to the Jaguar defense. But plus, if the Jaguars just run the ball, and the Chiefs' defense is just not going to stop that. That's something we've learned on playing the Broncos there.
True. Anthony, who you got?
As much as I'd really love to be on the Patrick Mahomes, this could be the year for the Chiefs bandwagon. I can't get on it because, first of all, it's the Chiefs. They're going to do what they do best and find a way to break everyone's hearts. And the Jags they're too sound. Offensively, they do have, Blake Bortles is their quarterback, but they have offensive weapons. And the defense is really good. I think all the talk between Ramsey and Tyreek Hill is going to set up a good matchup on the outside. As much as I like Tyreek Hill, I think it's a very good chance that Ramsey shuts him down because I think he's the best corner in the league. And going in, like Caleb said, Mahomes has not seen a defense like this yet. And if you watch the tape from the Denver game, especially really early on with the blitzes they were drawing up, he was rattled. He did not know where to go with the ball, and he was really feeling the pressure. And, it's what Travis Kelce are we going to get? Are we going to get the one that showed up in the first 4 games or 3 games, or are we going to get the Travis Kelce that dropped 6 passes that hit him right in the hands? And so I'm going to go with Jags.
Who you got, Justin? You got the home team?
I'm going to go with the home team.
There we go.
I'm going with the Chiefs. I think it's one of those things where we look at the Ramsey-Hill matchup, and yes, it's going to be a big role, but honestly, I don't think the Chiefs are worried about him shutting Hill down as much with the amount of talent they have. They've got Conley, they've got Kelce, they've got Hunt, they've got D'Anthony Thomas, they've got Demarcus Robinson. So they have a plethora of offensive weapons, and I think that's what's going to help them against this Jags team as deep as their defense is. And as bad as the Chiefs' defense has been, they are leading the league in one key category, and that is getting off the field on 3rd down. And they have the number 1 3rd down percentage as a defense, and I think that's going to be a key role is if they can maybe get Bortles into some of those 3rd and 7 to 8 and longer situations, they can get off the field and get that powerful offense back on the field. And I think it's going to be a close game. It's at Arrowhead. Crowd's going to be crazy. I think that they will find a way to come out and win this game in front of the home crowd.
Yeah, I'm with Kansas City. It's that environment. Like, you don't own the loudest stadium for nothing. Yeah. Like, if the like we were saying in pre-production, if the Guinness Book of World Records guy was there every single week, a record would be broken every single week.
Much.
And I as a Vikings fan, I saw the Jags defense in preseason, so it was I think it was the third game, so at least we got a little bit of the actual defense, and Kirk Cousins, which arguably we can all argue that he's better than Mahomes. I mean, it's up for debate, but he's had some experience, so at least you can say that.
Interesting debate.
At
this point, with
more
two
experienced
teams.
one.
Yeah, exactly. But he was rattled. Like he was rattled against that Jags defense, and it was just crazy. So let's move on to a later game, Oakland at LA. Now the Chargers, not the Rams.
Since there are now two teams in LA.
Yeah, there's two teams in LA, and they don't share the same stadium, but they will. They will share the same stadium at some point. But who you got? Raiders, Chargers.
I got the Chargers for this one. The Raiders just haven't been able to prove to me that Gruden was exactly what they needed at the moment. Plus, getting rid of Khalil Mack, who has better stats than the entire Raiders defense at the current moment. It's like Raiders kind of. I thought they were going to be the team going into this season that was going to take the division, but then they kind of just fell off in those first 3 weeks. I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't the same Raider team I thought I was going to be able to see this year.
I'm going to the Chargers. I think it's definitely. I mean, if you look at the game that they played against the Chiefs, there were 1 or 2 drop passes, and that's a much closer game than the score tells. But I think the Chargers, especially against a struggling Raiders team, I think they might just put it on them this week.
Going
I
3
agree.
for 3?
Yep.
Okay.
Also
3 for
with
3.
the Chargers.
4 for 4 here.
Derek Carr this year, we thought he was gonna take a next step and be that next elite guy, but he's kind of taken a step back this year. I mean, before last week, he was on a streak of I think 5 or 6 games where he had either 0 or 1 touchdown passes, and that's just not going to win you football games when you're playing teams like the Chiefs, like the Chargers, who can go down and put up points. And so I think that's going to be the key factor here is how Derek Carr plays. The Raiders' defense isn't the defense they had with Khalil Mack, obviously. They're not producing very well. So it's really going to be a burden on him, and I just don't think he's going to have enough to take down the whole entire Chargers offense.
I'm with you guys. I think the Chargers are going to win. We're going to move on very quickly. We got run out of time a little bit here. We're going to go to the Monday night game. It is Redskins, Saints in New Orleans. Drew Brees is just over about 200 yards passing
Somewhere around there.
to break the record of Peyton Manning's. Very quickly, who you got?
I'm going to go with the Saints just because it's Drew Brees and it's the Dome.
I'm going Saints. That offense is just it's too much to deal with.
Saints as well. I think the offense is going to come out and try to get Breeze that record early on and then just kind of coast from there like Caleb said in the Dome.
I'm actually going against you guys. I think the Redskins are going to pull it out mostly because I'm a big AP fan. I think he's going to run wild. My only question before we head out, when does Drew Brees break it? Does he break it before the first half?
I'm thinking it breaks before the first half.
If Thomas shows up unlike he did last week, it's definitely going in the first half.
I'm going to say mid-third quarter.
Mid-third quarter. I think he's going to break it at halftime. But that's all the time we've got. Thank you guys for all being here. I have been Eddie Johnson. This has been Weekend Sports Kickoff, a very special edition of Weekend Sports Kickoff. We'll see you guys next week, hopefully in our regular studio. Weekend Sports Kickoff would like to thank everyone who was involved in this special edition.